billionaire CEO follows crying girl, and what she whispers makes him call 911 immediately. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where are you watching from, which city are you in, and when it's over, be sure to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. He had everything money could buy, but no one waiting at home until the day a little girl whispered, "Help. He wants to kill mommy." Her clothes were torn, her voice was trembling, and her words, they shattered something inside him. That moment on a park bench would unravel a secret, ignite a war, and lead a lonely millionaire to the family he never knew he had. And it all began with 5 words, spoken by a child no one else heard. The whisper on Madison Avenue. He had everything, they said. 45 years old. Armani suits, a penthouse above Madison Avenue, where the windows stretched taller than most people's dreams. But James Miller didn't feel like a man who had everything, because what good is everything if there's no one to come home to? It had been 3 years since the divorce, 3 years since he'd packed up the photos, the fertility meds, the baby room that never held a child. Now, his life was meetings and mergers. His calendar was full, but his soul empty. He left the cafe on the corner that afternoon. Touchingstories. I chose 7p. According to his Rolex, adjusting the collar of his coat against the chill, fall had draped the city in amber light. His mind was on a zoning deal uptown, and that's when he heard it. "Help! Help!" He froze. At first, he thought it was a mumble from a passing phone call, or maybe a trick of the wind. But then, "He wants to kill mommy." The words were whispered, not screamed, as if saying them too loudly might bring danger closer. He turned and saw her, a little girl, no more than 5, sitting alone on a park bench beside a trash can, dirty sneakers, torn leggings, hair in knots, swinging her legs back and forth, whispering into the void. No one else seemed to notice, but James did, and something in his chest, something long dead, moved. He approached carefully, his voice soft like the wind through leaves. "Hey there, are you okay?" She didn't flinch, just looked up, eyes glassy and blue, filled with too much knowing for someone so small. "My name's Lily," she said. "Can you help mommy?" He crouched to her eye level. Her arms had bruises. Her lips were chapped. She was cold. "Where is your mommy?" Lily, the little girl's chin, trembled. She pointed vaguely toward the buildings across the street. "She's in the ugly house. The bad man took her there. I ran away." James swallowed hard, a rush of disbelief, fear, and something else. Protectiveness rose like a storm inside him. "What bad man?" He said, "If I told anyone, he'd hurt mommy. He hit her. I heard it. I was in the closet. But I ran." He reached for his phone, hands suddenly shaking. "Lily, I'm calling someone who can help." 911 answered in 2 rings. As he gave them the location, his eyes never left hers. She looked so small, so breakable. After ending the call, he did something strange, something he'd never done before. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're safe now. Lily, I promise." Sirens echoed faintly in the distance, but inside James Miller, something louder was stirring. A purpose, a fire, a beginning. She leaned her head against his arm, and in a voice full of innocence said, "My mommy said an angel would come help us one day." He couldn't breathe. Maybe she was wrong. Or maybe, for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he was meant to be. And though he didn't know it yet, the girl in his arms wasn't just someone to save you. She was family. Chapter 1. The bench. The wind brushed past his ears like the whisper of a forgotten prayer. Madison Avenue buzzed, as usual, heels on pavement. honking taxis, conversation that never truly quieted. But James Miller heard none of it, not since he'd knelt beside the bench and looked into the child's eyes. Her name was Lily. She was 5 years old, and she'd just told him her mother was going to be killed. "He hits Mommy," she said softly, almost like a confession. She said, "If I ever got scared, I could run and hide. So I did." She said it without panic, without tears, as though she'd practiced the words, as though she'd said them before. But her eyes told the truth, blue, shimmering. Terrified, James crouched, leveling his gaze with hers. He had closed billion-dollar real estate deals. He had stared down corporate rivals with steel in his spine. But nothing, not hostile takeovers, not Wall Street crashes, had ever made him feel like this, like his heart was breaking. "Lily," he said gently. "Where is your mommy now?" She pointed behind her, toward a row of old brownstones tucked between newer buildings. One of them had boarded windows, a chipped red door, a place no child should have ever known. "The ugly house," she whispered. "That's where the bad man took her. And you, how did you get here?" "I ran when he wasn't looking. I hid in the alley. I got hungry, so I sat down." Her legs dangled off the bench like a doll's, too small for the world she'd been dropped into. Her shoes were soaked, her tights torn. Her backpack was a grocery sack with one crushed granola bar inside. James swallowed the rising anger in his throat. He took out his phone, dialed 911. "Yes, this is James Miller. I found a lost child on Madison and 87th. She says her mother's been taken, possibly assaulted. She's 5. Name's Lily." The operator's voice was calm, but firm. "We're dispatching officers now. Please remain with the child. Keep her calm." James hung up and slowly removed his coat, draping it around Lily's small shoulders. She flinched at first, then, quietly, leaned against him. He wasn't a man used to being leaned on. His ex-wife, Susan, had once said he was good at fixing things, but not feeling them. They tried for years to have children. IVF, adoption wait lists, everything. But nothing worked. And when hope faded, so did the marriage. He'd buried the pain in boardrooms, in transactions, in silence, until this moment. Until a child who wasn't his looked at him like maybe he could be. "Do you have kids, Mr.?" "No," James said softly. "But I always wanted one." Lily blinked. Her lashes were thick and tangled with dust. "Can you be my temporary daddy then?" It was such an innocent ask, like she was borrowing sugar. James felt something in his chest crack wide open. "I think I'd like that," he said. The sirens echoed closer now. A police cruiser slowed as it turned the corner, followed by an unmarked car. James stood up slowly, Lily still holding his hand. 2 officers approached. One female detective with warm eyes and an NYPD badge clipped to her belt stepped forward. "Sir, I'm Detective Sarah Chen. You the one who called this in?" "Yes." James nodded. "This is Lily. She says her mother is in danger, possibly being held nearby." Detective Chen knelt in front of Lily. "Hi, sweetheart. Can you tell me your last name?" Lily hesitated. "Watson? Mommy says our last name is Watson." Chen's brows lifted subtly. She stood, turning to one of her officers. "Put out an APB for Emma Watson. Cross-check recent DV complaints, missing persons, and possible protection program links. Pull everything." She turned back to James. "Thank you for staying with her. Most people wouldn't." James looked down at Lily. "I couldn't walk away." At the station, everything moved fast and slow at once. Lily held James's hand as they sat in a pale blue interrogation room with mismatched chairs. She was given a juice box and crackers. She didn't touch either. Detective Chen returned an hour later. "Mr. Miller, can I speak with you outside?" He followed her into the hallway. "What's going on?" he asked. Chen folded her arms. Her face was serious now. "We believe Emma Watson may be a pseudonym. There are no records of a woman matching her and Lily's description before 2019. And the address Lily gave us, that house, it's been on our radar before. Ties to organized crime. Possibly a safe house for illegal activity." James blinked. "You think the mother was involved?" "We don't know, but this child is in danger. And unless we find the mother soon, Lily will be placed in temporary foster care." The words made James's stomach drop. He looked through the glass at Lily. Her small fingers gripped his coat like it was a life raft. "There's no other family, no records, no relatives, no emergency contacts." James exhaled. "I'll take her." Chen stared at him. "Mr. Miller, legally, you have no obligation." "I'm not talking about obligation," he interrupted. "I'm talking about protection." That night, James carried Lily wrapped in his coat. Asleep to the back seat of his car, he adjusted the child seat the police had helped him borrow, drove uptown, entered his penthouse like it had never meant anything. The city glittered outside his windows, but inside, a small girl whispered in her sleep, "Mommy said an angel would come." James stood there, coat on the floor, keys still in his hand, and for the first time in years, maybe in his whole life, he didn't feel powerful. He felt needed. "You're safe, Lily," he whispered, "and I swear, I'll find your mom." He turned off the lights. The city buzzed on. But in one quiet corner of Manhattan, a heart that had gone quiet just started to beat again. Chapter 2. The Ugly House. The morning light crept into the penthouse slowly, like it was unsure if it was welcome. James hadn't slept. Not really. He'd sat in the leather armchair across from the guest bed, watching as Lily curled tighter beneath the throw blanket he'd tucked around her the night before. She looked small in the oversized room, her frame swallowed by the expensive linens and quiet opulence. But she slept, and that felt like a kind of miracle. On the nightstand, she had placed the only thing she carried, a photo, crumpled and faded, of her mother, a woman with long brown hair and kind eyes, holding Lily as a toddler on what looked like a beach. The corners of the photo were smudged from tiny fingers. James picked it up again, studied the face. There was something familiar about her, something that danced just beyond the edge of memory. "Emma Watson," he whispered. "Who are you?" "By 8-0. He was back at the station with Lily. She gripped his hand tightly, a juice box in the other. Detective Chen greeted them in the lobby, coffee in hand, dark circles under her eyes. "Mr. Miller, thanks for coming." "She didn't want to be alone," James said, nodding to Lily. "Neither did I." Chen offered a small smile. Then her tone shifted. "We found the house." James stiffened. "The one she pointed to?" "Yes, our team entered just before dawn. What we found confirms her story." The house stood like a wound on the block, its windows dark, door splintered where the police had broken through. James walked through the living room with Chen and two other officers. Dust, peeling wallpaper, the smell of mildew and rot, a broken bottle on the floor, a ripped woman's sweater near the radiator. But the worst part was the silence. "This is where she was taken?" he asked. "Looks like it. Signs of struggle in the kitchen. Blood. Traces on the linoleum partial match to a female. Likely Emma. No body. No suspect. No prints. Nothing clean." James's jaw tightened. "What about neighbors?" "No one saw anything. Or they're too afraid to talk." "And the man with the scar?" Lily said he had one on his face. Chen nodded, flipping open a tablet and showing him a mugshot. Richard Hayes, known associate of Vincent Donovan. Drug trafficking, illegal gambling, intimidation. Served 2 years for assault. Out on parole. Donovan. That name's been in the papers. Irish mob. You read the right headlines. James exhaled. Ran a hand through his hair. So, This little girl has been hiding from a man tied to the mob. It's starting to look that way. And her mother is missing. We're treating it as a probable abduction, possibly retaliation. James turned toward the kitchen. A tea kettle still sat on the stove. Dust settled on the handle. He imagined Emma standing there, making something warm for Lily before everything shattered. How long has this been going on? He asked. Chen hesitated. That's the question. Back at the station, James sat with Lily while she colored quietly in the corner of the room. She was drawing a picture of 3 people stick figures. One tall, one with long hair, one small, with curly lines meant to be her own. Is that your family? He asked. It's you, me, and Mommy, she said, not looking up. When she comes back, James felt a knot form in his throat. Lily, do you remember anything else about the house? Anything that might help us find her? She stopped coloring. Then she whispered, there was a black cat in the window and a red car that always parked outside. James looked up at Chen, who immediately began typing into her report. The bad man's name was Rick. Lily added, he told Mommy if she tried to leave, he'd hurt both of us. James's hands balled into fists. What kind of world? He muttered. Lets a child live like this? Chen's gaze softened. The kind that needs people like you to care enough to change it. That afternoon, Chen pulled James aside. Legally, you're not her guardian yet, but Child Services is willing to fast-track an emergency placement if you're willing. Willing, he said. Voice low. I'm not letting her go anywhere without me. You'll need to submit to background checks. Home evaluations? Do it. Run them all. Chen smiled. I already started. James looked through the glass at Lily, now asleep again in the corner. A stuffed bear she'd picked out from the station's donation box tucked under her arm. She's been through enough, he said. If her mother's out there, we'll find her. And if she's not, he didn't answer at first. Then, quietly, then she'll still have me. That night, James stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse. Lily was asleep down the hall, this time in clean pajamas, on sheets he'd never once used before. He'd left the door cracked open. The hallway glowed with soft light. The photo Emma carried still sat on the kitchen counter. He picked it up again. Emma's smile in that picture was gentle and hauntingly familiar. Then it hit him. The bar in Boston, 7 years ago. A night after a failed real estate pitch. A waitress with soft brown hair and a voice like honey. He had only known her first name. Emma? He stared at the picture. Oh my God, he whispered. She's not just any little girl. She's mine. Chapter 3. The Penthouse. The elevator dinged softly as it opened into James's apartment. A private floor, sleek and quiet, all glass and marble. But as he stepped inside, carrying a sleeping 5-year-old in his arms, the space suddenly felt different. Too big, too quiet, too cold. Let's fix that, he whispered to himself. He laid Lily gently on the guest bed. She barely stirred, just clutched the small stuffed bear tighter. He left the door cracked, the hall light on, for the first time in over a decade. James didn't go to his study or the home gym or pour himself a glass of single malt. He sat on the hallway floor, back against the wall, just listening to her breathe. The next morning, Lily padded barefoot into the kitchen, hair tangled like a bird's nest. James stood at the stove, sleeves rolled, awkwardly flipping pancakes. Hey, sleepyhead. Lily rubbed her eyes. Are those for me? They might be shaped like questionable animals, he said, smiling. But yes. She climbed into a stool at the marble island. Her legs didn't reach the footrest. Why do you live in a castle? It's just a big apartment. Looks like the castle from Rapunzel, but with no colors. James glanced around. She wasn't wrong. It was sterile. Charcoal furniture, white walls, chrome fixtures, The kind of place that looked perfect in magazines but had no soul. "Would you like to help me change that?" he asked. Her face lit up. "Can we get pink things? As long as we don't paint the whole place cotton candy." Deal. That weekend, the penthouse transformed. They brought home soft blankets, storybooks, crayon sets, tiny socks with unicorns. Lily picked a nightlight that glowed blue and played soft lullabies. She insisted on sticking her drawings to the stainless steel fridge with animal magnets. "This one's Mommy," she explained, pointing to a figure with a brown dress. "And this is me. And this," she smiled shyly, "is you, my temporary daddy." James crouched beside her. "You know, you can just call me James, but I like Daddy James better." His heart stuttered. He hadn't been called that before. Not ever. That night, he tucked her in. She asked for 2 bedtime stories, then 3. He read them all. "Daddy James." "Yeah." "Sweetheart." Why did Mommy say the world was dangerous? He thought about it. Because sometimes it is. But that's why people take care of each other. That's why you ran when things got scary. That's why the police are looking for her. And that's why you're here now. She nodded sleepily. She said one day, someone would come help us. She was right. "Are you scared?" "Sometimes," he admitted, "but not when I'm with you." She reached for his hand with her tiny fingers. "Then we can be scared together." Later, James stood alone in the living room. The floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, lit in diamonds and traffic. For years, it had dazzled him. Power, wealth, respect. But now, all he could think about was a little girl sleeping down the hall, and a woman with brown hair and tired eyes, hiding somewhere in the dark. He looked down at the fridge, at the drawing of 3 stick figures, and suddenly he realized something. He wasn't just waiting for Lily's mother to come back. He was hoping she'd come back. To them, for the first time, the penthouse wasn't just where he lived. It was where someone belonged. Chapter 4. The Missing Name. The call came just after noon. James had just finished helping Lily braid her doll's hair badly when the phone lit up with Detective Chen's name. He stepped into the hallway, the cord of Lily's laughter tugging behind him. "Detective James, I need to talk to you in person. Are you home?" "Yes." "Is it about Emma?" A pause. "It's about everything." 10 minutes later, Chen stood in James's living room, flipping through a slim manila folder. Lily sat on the floor nearby, drawing with markers and humming under her breath. She was the only sunshine in a room that felt like it had started to cloud over. "We ran a deeper trace on Emma Watson," Chen said, keeping her voice low. "There are no records under that name before 2019. No school history, no employment, nothing. So, she's using an alias. We believe so, which suggests she may have been in a witness protection program, or she was hiding from something." James's stomach turned. What does that mean for Lily? It means Emma didn't just run from an abusive man. She may have been running from a life she used to live. A criminal life, or a dangerous one. We're not sure yet. James looked toward Lily. She had drawn another picture. 3 people again. The same small family. His hand found the edge of the counter, gripping it for balance. "She's not just any woman," he said. "Is she?" Chen shook her head. "And this isn't just about domestic violence. What else have you found?" Chen pulled out a scanned photo, a DMV license of a woman with the same face as Emma, but with a different name. Emma Catherine Donovan. James blinked. That name Donovan? Yes. She was married to Vincent Donovan. James nearly dropped his glass. That's the man Lily's abuser works for, isn't it? Chen nodded grimly. She was married to him for 7 years. Then why hide under Watson? Because she testified against him 6 years ago. James sat down heavily on the edge of the sofa, the weight of truth pressed against him. She turned against her husband and disappeared into witness protection with Lily. She and her daughter became ghosts. Chen stepped forward. Until now. Until Lily walked into your life. The apartment was silent, except for the soft scribble of crayon on paper. That night, James sat beside Lily as she colored quietly on the floor of his study. Sweetheart, can I ask you something? She looked up. Sure. Do you remember where you and Mommy lived before New York? Lily frowned. She said, we used to live in a place with trees, lots of them. But it was a secret. She said not to tell anyone. Why not? Lily leaned in, as if someone might hear her, because the bad man from before might find us. James's blood chilled. The man with the scar. Lily shook her head. No, that was Rick. The bad man from before had green eyes. Mommy cried about him when she thought I was sleeping. James sat back slowly. Did he ever hurt you? No, but Mommy was always scared. She said he wasn't really my daddy. James felt a tremor run through him. Then who is? Lily picked up a new crayon. She said he didn't know I existed, that he was a good man, but he left before I was born. James couldn't breathe. What else did she say? Lily smiled softly. That one day, we'd find him. She picked up a drawing from her pile, held it out to him. 3 stick figures again, and this time above the tallest figure was a name written in purple crayon. James. He stared at it for a long time. His throat burned. Was it possible? Could one night, 7 years ago, really be the beginning of all of this? Lily, he whispered, voice raw, when Mommy comes back, will you show her this drawing? Of course, she said simply, we're going to be a family again. She didn't know the truth she carried, but James did, and it was about to change everything. Chapter 5. The scar on his hand. The memory hit him like a wave he didn't see coming. Boston, 7 years ago. A corner bar called Murphy's, dimly lit, full of clinking glasses and out-of-town suits, nursing disappointment. James had just closed a deal that went sideways. He remembered the tension in his jaw, the whiskey burning down his throat, and the warmth of a waitress who listened like she cared. Emma, she'd said. When he asked her name, just Emma, they'd talked until closing. She'd laughed at his sarcasm, challenged him on real estate gentrification, then softened when he talked about wanting kids. She said something like, the best things in life are the ones you never plan for. And then a hotel room, one night. No numbers exchanged, just a memory. He never knew what happened to her after that. Until now. He stared at the purple crayon drawing Lily had made, the stick figure labeled James, the 3 of them holding hands, a real family. His real family. He stood frozen in the living room as her words echoed again. Mommy said he didn't know I existed. God, she meant him. The phone rang. Unknown number. Manhattan area code. He answered without thinking. Hello. A beat of silence, then a voice low. Calm, cold. You have something that belongs to me. James's stomach dropped. Who is this? You know who I am. And I know where you live. James Miller. If you come near this child, return the girl, and no one gets hurt. Click. The line went dead. James stood in the center of his penthouse, the city, glowing outside the glass. But all he felt was darkness. He walked back into Lily's room. She was asleep, her tiny arms wrapped around the stuffed bear, breathing slow, peaceful. He sat beside her, hands trembling, and whispered, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, James contacted Detective Chen. She came immediately this time with 2 federal agents. Agent Martinez, tall, serious, former Marine. Agent Thompson, quiet, calculating, eyes always scanning. They took the living room apart in 20 minutes, checking cameras, blinds, access points, any signs of tracking. That call wasn't random, Martinez said. It was a threat and a warning. They know who I am, James said, and where I live, which means they're watching. Probably through someone on the inside. Inside what? Chen answered softly. Witness protection. James stiffened. Emma and Lily were in the program. They were. Chen nodded. But they disappeared 8 months ago. No trace. Until Lily showed up with you. And now, Vincent Donovan knows where she is. Martinez handed James a document. Emma's real name is Emma Catherine Donovan, married to Vincent. He believed Lily was his daughter until he ran a secret DNA test. James's heart stopped. When he found out she wasn't his, he snapped. Chen added, started drinking more, getting violent. That's when Emma started planning to leave. But when she finally did, he sent his men after her, including the one with the facial scar, Rick. Thompson said, that's the man Lily saw hurt her mother. Why didn't they tell me any of this before? Because you weren't part of it. Until now. James looked at Lily, drawing again quietly in the corner. Humming a tune, she's mine, he whispered. Emma never told me, but I know now she's my daughter. Martinez nodded. Then you need to understand something. This is war, not just between you and Vincent, but between a man desperate for control and a woman who escaped him with everything he thought belonged to him. That night, James didn't sleep. He sat at his desk, watching footage from the Penthouse security feed. He kept one hand on his phone, the other on the emergency panic button installed that evening by Martinez's team. He had been rich for most of his life, but until now, he'd never truly understood what it meant to have something to lose. Around 3 a soft voice pulled him from his thoughts. Daddy James. Lily stood in the doorway, barefoot, eyes wide. I had a bad dream. He got up, knelt in front of her. What was it? The bad man found Mommy, and he took her away. James lifted her into his arms. That's not going to happen. Sweetheart, I promise. You promise. I promise. She rested her head on his shoulder. Mommy said you were brave. He smiled softly, tears stinging the corners of his eyes. I wasn't, not until I met you. He used to fight for profits. Now, he would fight to the death for the child who called him Daddy. Chapter 6. The father she never knew. The hospital smelled like bleach and whispered fear. James clutched Lily's small hand as they stepped through the sliding glass doors of Mount Sinai, escorted by 2 federal agents. His heart thudded like a war drum. Emma had been found, alive, but barely. Shot, bleeding, found near a highway rest stop where she had escaped whoever took her. She was asking for him. And for Lily, they rode the elevator to the ICU in silence. James glanced down at Lily. Her fingers were trembling in his grip, but her jaw was set like stone. Are you okay? He whispered. I just want Mommy back. A nurse met them at the glass doors. Kind eyes, gentle voice. She led them into a private room where machines beeped steadily beneath fluorescent light. Emma lay motionless, pale. Still! Her brown hair was damp with sweat, tubes in her arm. A monitor blinked steadily with her heartbeat. Lily ran to her side without hesitation. Mommy, it's me. I found you. Emma's eyes fluttered open, heavy with pain. Lily, she whispered, my baby. Her hand lifted slowly, trembled. Lily grabbed it and pressed it to her cheek. James stood frozen near the door, chest tight, 100 memories flooding in at once. Emma turned her head. Her eyes locked onto his. For a moment, nothing else existed. No tubes, no agents, no war outside the hospital walls. Just the woman he'd met one night in Boston. Yasirin das bahari motsi dis I ahan and decay was dying. And the daughter they had created together. Emma's voice was barely audible. James, he stepped forward. I'm here. You found her. She found me, he said. She saved us both. Emma's hand reached for his. He took it. Despite everything, it was the most natural thing he'd ever done. I knew you'd find her. she whispered. Emma. He knelt beside her bed. Why didn't you tell me? About Lily. Her lips trembled. Tears pooled in the corners of her eyes. I didn't know how. Until it was too dangerous. When I found out I was pregnant, you were gone. I didn't know your last name. He remembered it then, how they'd never exchanged more than first names. One night, one city, two strangers trying to forget their own loneliness. I tried to find you, she said, later, when I knew your name. But by then, I was married to someone else, and everything was too complicated, too dangerous. Vincent, she nodded. He thought Lily was his, but when she turned 3, he did a DNA test behind my back. Her voice broke. That's when the violence started. James felt his throat tighten. Emma, I would have protected you. I would have done something, anything. I know, she said, her voice shaking. That's why I ran. That's why I stayed hidden. I was trying to get to you, but I was always one step behind, and he was always one step ahead. Tears streamed silently down James's face. She's mine, he whispered. Emma nodded. She's yours. She always has been. He looked at Lily, now curled beside her mother, her small body half asleep, trusting the world again, as if it hadn't shattered days ago. She called me Daddy James, he said. That's who you are. The monitor beeped steadily, and Emma's eyelids fluttered shut again. A nurse stepped forward. She needs rest. Her vitals are stable, but it's fragile. James stood and looked back once more at the woman who had quietly carried his entire world for 7 years. I'm not leaving, he said. Not ever again. That night, Lily curled up on the hospital recliner, the stuffed bear in her arms. James sat in a plastic chair beside her, eyes fixed on Emma's sleeping form. Detective Chen arrived with 2 coffees. She handed him one, without speaking. You okay? No, James said. But I'm here. Emma's lucky, Chen said softly. Most women in her situation never get out. And the ones who do, they don't make it back to their kids. I'll make sure she never has to run again. Chen nodded. Then we better get to work. He thought he had lost everything. But now, he'd found his daughter, the woman he once let slip away. And a reason to stay alive? Chapter 7, The Escape Plan. It started with a phone call. Detective Chen's cell rang as she stood beside Emma's bed, sipping lukewarm coffee. She answered briskly, stepping into the hallway, and returned less than 60 seconds later, with fear written across her face. We need to move. James stood immediately. What's happened? The call from earlier. The one that threatened you and Lily. It's been traced to where? Inside the city. A burner phone. But now there's chatter. What kind of chatter? That Vincent Donovan is in Manhattan. James felt the air leave his lungs. You said he was in prison. He escaped during a medical transfer. Killed 2 guards. It was kept under wraps, but now... She didn't finish the sentence. James looked toward Emma, her face pale, her breathing shallow, the monitors blinking like a quiet warning. We're not safe here, he said. Chen nodded. We've got agents on their way. But James, there's a leak in the system. Someone tipped Vincent off. He knows where Emma is. How much time do we have? A nurse stepped in, shaking. There are men downstairs, asking about a woman named Emma. One of them has a scar on his face. James's heart dropped. Rick, the hospital burst into motion. Agent Martinez and Thompson arrived within minutes, barking orders into earpieces, sweeping hallways, sealing stairwells. James packed Emma's belongings with shaking hands. Lily watched from a chair in the corner, clutching her bear, trying to be brave. Daddy James, she whispered. Yeah, sweetheart, is it happening again? He knelt down, held her tight. Not this time. We're going to keep Mommy safe. I promise. Agent Thompson pulled James aside. There's an emergency exit at the far end of the east wing. It leads to the staff elevator. If we get there, We can reach the basement garage. We've got an armored car waiting. Let's go. But just as they turned the corner, gunfire, screams echoed down the corridor. A nurse dropped a tray. The fire alarm began to wail. "They're here," Martinez shouted. Lily screamed and ran to James. He scooped her into his arms. Emma, weak, bleeding, hooked to machines, tried to stand. "I'm going," she gasped. "Don't leave me behind." James rushed to her side. "You can't walk. Try me." He yanked the IV from her arm, wrapped a towel around the wound, and pulled her up. She leaned on him, breathless but determined. "This way," Martinez shouted, leading them down a back hallway as bullets ricocheted down the corridor behind them. They reached the stairwell, descended 3 floors. James held Lily against his chest. Emma clutched the railing. Every step a battle. They burst into the garage, where the armored SUV waited, doors already open. "Go, go, go!" Thompson shouted. James helped Emma into the back seat. Then Lily. He jumped in last. Martinez slammed the door shut, and the vehicle tore out of the garage, tires squealing. From the rear window, James saw Vincent Donovan standing at the garage entrance, staring straight at them. The car sped through Manhattan, weaving between traffic, sirens blaring. Emma clutched Lily's hand. James sat in the back, one arm around both of them, his other hand shaking. "He's coming for us," he said. "Let him," Emma whispered. "We're not running anymore." That night, the 3 of them were relocated to a federal safe house in Queens. Small, anonymous, steel locks on the doors, shatterproof windows. Lily slept between them, curled like a comma in the shape of their new family. James lay awake, staring at the ceiling. "Emma," he whispered. "Yeah, we should have had years." She turned to face him, eyes glassy. "But we have now." They didn't kiss, not yet, but they held hands beneath the sheets, and in that fragile silence, they began to believe in something impossible, a future. They'd escaped the hospital, but they hadn't escaped the past, and Vincent Donovan never let go of what he believed was his. Chapter 8. The Trap. The safe house smelled like disinfectant and fear. It was technically secure. 2 locks on every door, one-way mirrors, backup generators, a medical cot in the corner for Emma. But James knew better. Nowhere was safe. Not anymore. Not with Vincent Donovan alive. And close. Agent Martinez stood before them with a whiteboard, a scowl, and a plan that sounded too much like bait. "Vincent is dying," he said. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Maybe 6 months. That makes him unstable and desperate. Desperate enough to come for Lily," James said bitterly. "And for something else," Chen added. "The money." Emma shifted on the cot. Her color had returned, though the wound in her side still burned. But her voice, calm and sharp, cut through the room. "He wants the 50 million. Everyone turned toward her. "He doesn't want Lily just out of spite. He thinks I know where the mob's money is hidden." And he's right. "Do you?" James asked. Emma looked at him carefully. "I don't just have secrets, James. I have insurance." She reached into the duffel bag that had been brought from the hospital. From the lining, she pulled a small key, taped and hidden. "Safety deposit box, Bank of Boston. Box 247. Martinez took a breath. "What's in it?" "Everything. Codes, names, offshore, account routing numbers. It's enough to bring down what's left of Vincent's empire." "Why didn't you give this to us before?" "Because I was waiting until I knew Lily was safe." Agent Thompson stepped forward. "Here's what we propose. We leak intel that Emma is willing to meet with Vincent to trade the location of the money for Lily's freedom." "He won't believe it," James said. "He knows Lily's already with us, which is why we'll stage a fake fallout." Chen added, "Emma insists Lily be transferred out of the country without her, that she's willing to make a trade." James stood. "Absolutely not." Emma started. "You're not going in alone again." I have to, she said softly. He wants me, not you, not Lily. Me, Emma. He tried to kill you. You almost died in my arms. She looked at him, eyes steady, and I'd do it again to keep her safe. Silence. Only Lily's quiet breathing from the next room. That night, James stood on the rooftop, staring at the skyline. Emma joined him. The wind caught her hair. She still moved slowly, carefully, but her spirit after all this remained unshakable. Do you ever think about that night in Boston? She asked. Every day since I realized it was you. I always hoped you'd remember. I forgot everything, except how you made me feel. She smiled, then faltered. I'm scared. James. Good. It means you're human. What if I don't come back? Then I'll find you again, wherever you go. Their hands found each other, and this time, they didn't let go. In a warehouse in Queens, the trap was set. Federal agents lined the walls, snipers on the rooftops. Emma wired and watched from every angle. James wasn't supposed to be there, but he came anyway, hidden behind shipping containers with a Glock he'd never used in real life. He's coming, Martinez said over the radio. Everyone, stay sharp. But none of them saw the small black device tucked under the folding table inside the warehouse. A bug planted days ago and transmitting every word to Vincent Donovan. They thought they were setting a trap, but Vincent had already turned it into a stage, and everyone inside was part of his final act. Chapter 9. The Pier. Midnight. Pier 47, Brooklyn. The wind whipped off the East River, sharp and cold like a blade. Emma stood alone at the end of the pier, a long black coat hiding the bulletproof vest beneath. Her hair blew across her face, but she didn't move. She was ready, or at least, she had no choice. Federal agents lined the perimeter. Snipers held their breath on nearby rooftops. James crouched behind a rusted shipping container, hands sweating over the Glock in his grip. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he couldn't stay away because his family was out there, and the man coming for them wasn't going to walk away. Vincent Donovan appeared like a shadow made flesh, thinner than before, gaunt, but his eyes, those cold, emerald eyes, still burned. Emma. He called across the water, my beautiful little liar. She didn't flinch. You're dying, Vincent. You've lost everything. Just take the money and go. He laughed. You think I want the money? He stepped closer. 6 men flanked him, armed. Alert. I want you. I want that girl. And I want the truth. Emma raised her voice. Lily is not your daughter. No, she's the child of a coward who ran after one night. A man who never had to raise her, never saw her first steps, never cleaned blood off the kitchen floor. James's breath caught. He had missed it all, but he would not miss what came next. Vincent raised his gun. You know what I want? Emma, I want to see his face. I want to watch it break. The same way mine did when I found out that little girl wasn't mine. Silence stretched. Then, James stepped out from the shadows. You want me? His voice was calm, steady. I'm right here. Emma turned, eyes wide. James. No, this ends with me. Vincent's mouth curled. The mystery man. The ghost. The father. He lifted his gun. Let's finish this. And then Emma moved, faster than anyone expected. She lunged at Vincent, grabbing the arm with the gun, driving them both toward the edge of the pier. If you want to kill him, you'll have to kill me too. A gunshot rang out. Screams. The 2 bodies tumbled off the pier and into the black water below. Chaos exploded. James ran, dove into the freezing water without a second thought. The cold hit like a wall of knives, but he swam, breathless, searching hands out, vision blurred. Then he saw her. Emma. Floating, bleeding, alive. He dragged her to the ladder as agents pulled her from the water. Medics swarmed. Vincent's body drifted behind, lifeless. A dark red bloom spread into the river around him. Agent Martinez shouted into his radio, "Suspect is down." "Repeat, Vincent Donovan is confirmed down." On the dock, James knelt beside Emma, soaking and shivering. She blinked up at him, blood on her lips, but her voice still held strength. "Is he gone?" "He's gone." "Lily, safe." She reached for his hand. "Promise me you'll raise her, even if I—" "No," James said fiercely. "We do this together." Her eyes filled. "We're finally free." Back at the safe house, Lily sat wrapped in a blanket on the couch when the door opened, and James walked in carrying Emma in his arms. She leapt up. "Mommy!" Emma opened her eyes and smiled. "Hi, baby." Lily ran into her arms. James crouched beside them. They stayed like that on the floor, tangled in one another, in silence. A family, broken, but not lost. The pier had been a battlefield, but in the water, something else had surfaced, a love worth living for, and a past finally drowned. Chapter 10, The Answer. 2 years later, the backyard smelled like lavender and fresh paint. A little girl ran barefoot through the grass, a golden retriever bounding behind her. Her laughter echoed against the porch railings of a modest 2-story house just outside Portland, Oregon. James stood by the grill, watching Lily, now 8, with a calm that once felt impossible. She was taller, braver, whole. "Daddy, watch this," she yelled. "Champion can do the rollover thing." James smiled. "That's because you're the best trainer he's ever had." The dog barked once in agreement, flopped onto the grass, and rolled dramatically. Tail wagging, Lily squealed, "You're gonna be famous. Champion." The screen door creaked behind him. Emma stepped onto the porch, her left hand resting on the small curve of her belly. "You said we were keeping Champion humble," she teased. "I gave up when he learned how to open the pantry." He turned to her. She leaned into his side. He kissed her temple. "You okay?" he asked. "A little sore, a lot grateful." Her limp was barely noticeable now. The scar on her side was silver and quiet, but the light in her eyes that was new, hard-earned, peaceful. Inside the house, life pulsed gently. Crayons spilled across the kitchen table. A calendar filled with therapy sessions, school projects, and prenatal appointments. Photos of the 3 of them smiling in front of oceans, forests, birthday cakes, no locked doors, no emergency drills, just life. And that was enough. Detective Chen arrived at sunset, holding a gift bag and a grin. "You didn't think I'd miss Lily's birthday, did you?" "Unthinkable," James said, hugging her. "I still get calls about the Donovan case," she said, as they sat around the patio table. "They teach it in training seminars now. The mother who took down an empire." Emma smiled. "They can leave out the part where I fell off a pier. That's the best part." Lily chimed in, licking frosting off her fingers. "It's where Mommy became a superhero." Later, after cake and laughter and stories told carefully around little ears, James walked Lily upstairs. She changed into pajamas, placed her drawing under her pillow, and pulled her blanket up to her chin. "Daddy." "Yeah, sweetheart. Remember when I asked you what family meant?" "I do. I think I know the answer now." He sat beside her. "Tell me." "It's the people who find you when you're lost and never let go." He couldn't speak for a moment, just kissed her forehead. "You're exactly right." That night, James stood on the porch swing with Emma in his arms. Her head rested on his shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "The penthouse, the empire, the suits, the boardrooms, the title." He looked out over their quiet street. The wind stirred the flowers she planted by the mailbox. The dog snored inside. Lily talked in her sleep upstairs. "Not even for a second," he whispered, "because of the money, because it was never real." "This is—" Emma took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "I got confirmation today," she said. 12 weeks. James froze, then smiled, then cried. "We're really doing this again, together." This time, he pulled her close, another child, who's going to be brave like her sister and strong like her mother. She looked up and loved like never before. For years, he'd searched for success in skyscrapers and seven-figure deals. But in the end, the answer had always been small hands in a porch light left on, and the sound of someone calling him Dad. Shocking, the porch light glowed softly through the evening fog. Inside that little home in Oregon, laughter drifted from the upstairs window, and a lullaby played from the baby monitor in the kitchen. A man once known for power and wealth now stood at the foot of a child's bed, tucking her in with hands that had once only held contracts and currency. He had everything now, because he had love, and because someone years ago had been brave enough to run, and brave enough to come back. Emma never went back to hiding. James never returned to boardrooms, and Lily never again asked what it meant to be safe, because now she knew. They all knew. That family isn't built in bloodlines or last names. It's found in those quiet choices. They whispered promises, the nights someone stays, even when everything feels lost. So maybe this wasn't just a love story between a woman and a man. Maybe it was a story about what love does, how it breaks, how it rebuilds, how it teaches us to be unafraid of beginning again. Now, it's your turn. Tell us, what are your thoughts on this story? Leave a comment and rate it from 0 to 10. And don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from our channel. And if you want more heartwarming, healing stories just like this, click here to watch our latest stories, because sometimes the story you need most starts with a stranger and ends with a family.